Here we go. Hi, Kerri. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. I've been wanting to get you on for a while. I'm glad you agreed to come on and have a bit of a chat to us. Where are you
Oh, that's
based in
lovely.
Melbourne?
I'm in Glen Iris in Melbourne, so very close to the pool where I swim, which is very handy for me. I
Very
don't have
handy.
to fight the traffic to get to training.
And you had a swim this morning. What did you do in your training set this morning?
Well, we did have a swim. There was a group of us that just get together on Friday mornings. We have one of the guys that we swim with, Pete. He sets the sessions on Friday. So what do we do today? We have names for everything. So we do the Dow, which is named after a particular team member, and that's 5 100s. Then we did 2 2s, 3 1s, 450s, 425s, and sort of a bit either side of that. So that was the main set basically, and lots of talking and laughing, which is probably takes a lot longer than the swim actually.
How many did you have in the Pete's Plotters this morning?
There were 8 of us. We had quite a big gang of us today, so it was good. Good to see some faces that we don't see as much these days that are starting to come back. So we have a lovely group, and as I said, lots of laughs, which is really important.
Absolutely. I think that's the cornerstone or the bedstone of master swimming. Aside from getting fit and, participating in swimming, it's the lovely friendships that you make as well.
Yeah, I think it's also good to, you're getting fit with friends, which makes it a lot easier when you're doing some of these sessions, which you think, geez, when you're swimming them, but it's so much easier when you're with a group. I think so anyway. It really helps with training, and you just push that little bit harder and get a little bit more in your swim.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough swimming by yourself and doing that to stay motivated all the time, isn't it?
I think so. Swimming is like that. A solo swimmer is a rare find, I think.
Absolutely. How did you first get started in master swimming?
Well, I didn't swim as a kid. I started swimming at uni. I did sports science like you, and they had a squad. So, that was at uni. And then I just kept swimming by myself or with some friends. And then I had my eldest child, who's 16 now, and she was a nightmare in her first year, no sleep whatsoever. So I went from this really active person that did something every day to pretty much zero. And Darren, my partner, said, we'd just moved back from Sydney. And he said, I'm taking you across the road. There's a fantastic master swimming club that he had swum with previously. And he said, you're going to swim with them. You need to be, you need to get back into it. And I remember going across, it was a beautiful day, and Jan was the coach, and it just started from there. I got hooked, absolutely hooked. So religiously 3 times a week, I could never miss my squad session. It was, everything had to be organized around these sessions.
I
So
know
it
this.
was really good. It was good for my mental health at that time because I was absolutely exhausted. So it really helped pick me back up again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a common sort of story I hear, like people sort of change their sort of life around that swimming sort of sessions that they attend, or even their work commitments.
Yeah, and that was very common. Everyone, I couldn't believe, at 9:30 you'd have 30 people there. And you're like, do these people not work? But everyone had negotiated that time off, which is quite funny. And then obviously COVID hit, and it's completely changed, I think now.
Yeah.
I know with myself, the times that I swim now have changed a lot. So COVID did change things.
Yeah, I think also in the fact that you were allowed to start swimming with one or exercising with one other person, and that's why a lot of sort of smaller groups formed away from that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then obviously that sort of continued. I know you dabbled in a bit of open water during that time as well. How did you find that with the cold water?
I love open water swimming. I think there's nothing, I just find it, I really love it. So that was great. And also, no cars on the road. So to get to the beach from here when we were allowed, of course, was was, I think probably, the easiest was be able to get down there in a short period of time. I just don't have that time anymore, which I'm really upset about. But that was fantastic. I know we were only meant to swim with one other, but there was sort of twos and twos and twos. So the community there was great. I loved just, swimming pole to pole. I felt safe. It was a really good atmosphere. So I'd say that for me. Swimming in the middle of winter though, yeah, that was tough. The water got to 9 degrees, which for some people that's fine. And those who swim all year round without wetsuits, I take my hat off to them, because there's just no way. It literally takes your breath away.
Yeah.
But you feel amazing afterwards. And I think that's what hooks you in. So I think, I will try and return to that once, the kids kind of go and do their own thing. It's just too hard when you've got, the kids around.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons I wanted to get you on the podcast was to discuss your myotherapy career and how that can help swimmers. How did you first get started in myo, and talk us through sort of the journey that you've been on? Because I know you did a sports science degree. How did you end up as a myotherapist?
Yeah, so I, out of school went into sports science like you, and worked as an exercise physiologist and in corporate health for many, many years. And then again, like swimming, I had the kids, and I just decided I needed a change. I'd worked, in corporate health. We traveled around a bit. So I worked in Sydney and New Zealand and Melbourne. I just felt like I needed to do something else. And during the time I worked in that area, I had a couple of myotherapists work for me, and also my main sport was Taekwondo. So I use myotherapists sort of just to help me with injury or maintenance and prevention of injury. And I absolutely loved what they did. So, I was sitting down here, what do I want to do now? I want to do something else. And I looked at a couple of things, whether I should go back and study physio and then myotherapy and osteo. So I just really, probably the time that I'd spent with the myotherapist back when I was working in corporate health, I really admired what they did, and their knowledge of the body and injuries as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that, went back and studied myotherapy.
How long was that course that you?
So I did it over 2 years at RMIT. They do, because I had a sports science degree, which was 4 years. And obviously during sports science, you do heavily, a lot of anatomy and physiology, biomechanics, etc. So a lot of my therapists now go and do the degree course, which is great. But I thought I've spent 4 years doing a degree. So I'm not going to go back and do the degree component of it. And so for me, it was 2 years. And so that was advanced diploma. So I knew that after doing that course, just ongoing study, etc. as well and it just suited me at the time with young children to do that.
Absolutely.
I didn't feel like I needed to go back and do another 4 years of study.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And for those people listening who get confused between myotherapy, osteo, etc., give us a bit of a definition or a potted version of what myotherapists do.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of crossover, and everyone treats musculoskeletal injuries. And I'd probably say in terms of myotherapy is probably a lot more hands-on than osteo can be quite hands-on too, but physios, I'd say they give you quite a lot of exercises when you're injured, which is fantastic, and you absolutely need them. So I'd say people come to a myotherapist more if they've got chronic ongoing pain or injuries or issues that they haven't been able to resolve. So overuse injuries, etc., headaches, back pain. Physios, I'd say more their scope of practice. I would probably send people, post-surgery, or if they'd had a dislocation or ligament tear, more acute type injury, I'd say. And osteo, Well, they're quite all-rounded. They do a bit of everything, and they also can do, manipulation as well. So osteos are fantastic as well. They also do exercises. So I'm a myotherapist and exercise scientist. So the exercise component of what we do in myotherapy is so important. So I don't like just getting someone on the table and doing hands-on stuff, because it's great and it feels fantastic, but it is often a bit of a band-aid. So things will return if you don't manage them yourself as well, away from the treatment room.
Yeah. And talking about injuries and the kind of things you treat, what are the most common swimming injuries that you would see?
They're often, for master swimmers in particular, overuse injuries. So obviously a lot of master swimmers tend to be over the age of 40. So, and they've often been swimming for many, many years. So I'd say, and in particular, neck and shoulder, obviously. I mean, the shoulder's a very versatile joint, but it's also very unstable. So it needs a lot of strength to support and stabilize the joint. So you see a lot of tendon issues, so tendinopathy. So that's degeneration of the tendon, which is very, very common as we get older, because it's about overuse and repetition. So you can imagine swimming is so repetitive, the actions of swimming.
Yeah.
And over the years, it's absolutely normal for any overhead athlete, tennis, swimming, whatever it might be, that they'll start to get niggles. And that sort of coincides with the type of training that you're doing. So you often see or feel those issues coming on when there's a change in your training program.
Yeah. And how would you how do you approach someone with an overuse injury in the shoulder as a swimmer? What do you do?
You really need to talk to them about their training load. Often people come in with these when there is a change in the program. They might have upped the duration, intensity, or frequency of their program. So that's often a big one. You might be changing from, more sprint based to then doing a lot of long distance. Yep. So just that change in load. And then the other thing to take in consideration is if with the sessions, if they're quite big, long sessions, fatigue plays a huge part in that. So, your stroke might be great the first half of the session, but if that, once you get fatigued, that, often your stroke tends to fall apart a little bit. So just little things like if, you get tired and you might swim over, past the midline of your body, well, that puts excessive sort of flexion, internal rotation on that arm. So if you're doing that, the back end of your training session every time, these niggles will start to surface and it'll get to the stage where, it really is troublesome for you, most likely to start within the pool, and then, day-to-day activities outside of the pool, you'll start to notice this as well.
Yeah. And then if you see someone coming with that kind of overuse injury, and is it sort of common to see them for quite a few sessions of massage, or is it able to help sort of irregularly? How does that work?
With overuse injuries like tendinopathies, which are very common, especially in the rotator cuff part of it, with the shoulder, the rotator cuff muscles and tendons are normally the culprits for master swimmers. Massage might help a little bit, but ultimately it's the strength training. And unfortunately, tendon issues just hang around, like it's not a quick fix. So if you get onto it early, you will get over it a lot quicker. You got to understand with tendon issues, this has sort of been building up over years and years and years. And as soon as you feel some pain or discomfort, it's a warning system, basically. It's your brain saying you need to do something about this. So in terms of how many sessions they would come, well, that really depends on what stage they're at. If they've sort of just put up with the pain like a lot of people do and just sort of swum through it, it'll be fine. It's going to take a lot longer to rectify. Tendon issues can they can be months and months and months, unfortunately. But sometimes it might just be that the surrounding muscles are just tense and fatigued, and you can do some work through the shoulder joint and they feel fine. But often you really do need to stabilize the joint, and that's by building up strength through the muscles. So if someone comes in with that issue into the clinic, they generally don't leave with just soft tissue massage work. I will give them 1 or 2 exercises to do as well when they leave.
Yeah. What kind of
So
strength exercises would you recommend for that kind of an injury?
look, strength training of the shoulder joint, so strengthening the smaller shoulder muscles, not the the large muscle groups that we tend to do when we're at the gym. So the rotator cuff muscles are smaller, and they do need to be strengthened. So really, I mean, there is a I can't physically show you here, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what you do so much as long as you do something else. The exercises used with a band or a light dumbbell body weight, for example. So it can be quite a few different things. What I would also say though is a lot of the time with shoulder injuries, it's also the lack of mobility that people have. So working on your mobility is really important. And for swimmers, your thoracic, so that's your middle back. I'd say 99% of swimmers that come into the clinic have that rounded back, the middle, almost like a small kyphosis. So getting them to work on strengthening and mobilizing through the middle back is one of the things that we start pretty early on.
Yeah. So a lot of band work on those smaller muscles. And is that something that you'd be recommending that swimmers do on pool deck before they get in the water, or?
Look, I with the band, doesn't have to be bands. It can be dumbbells. It could be body weight work. So there's so many things you can do, and people don't like to be given exercises when they come into the. It's something that they're like, oh, do I really have to do that? But it is really important. You've got to understand, especially as a masters athlete, that once you hit age 40, you just lose bone mass as well. So we need to, being swimmers, we're not doing weight bearing exercise. So that's where weight bearing exercise like strength training is so important, because if we're not getting that from swimming, we need to get it elsewhere. So by doing a bit of strength training, that also helps with your mobility and your flexibility as well, and increasing the bone mass. So and you don't have to be doing a 60-minute program 3 days a week. 1 or 2 exercises is all you need. So if you do it as a sort of reactivation exercise before you get in the pool, or you dedicate 15 minutes a day, I'm just going to do my exercise to keep those muscles nice and strong, and then the mobility exercises on top of that, sort of trying to open up through the chest, because as swimmers we're a bit more concave.
Yeah, and obviously the lifestyle we lead these days, with a lot of people over the computer and things like that over a desk, that sort of increases that sort of bending forward over the shoulders as well.
Yeah, a lifestyle exacerbates that for sure. And then, I mean, the exercise is incredibly important. So to be able to get into the pool and do that, but again, yeah, it sort of exaggerates that, the middle back inflexibility. So working on your foam roller, or by doing specific mobility exercises, I think it should just be part of you as a masters athlete in particular, because that's where we start to see those wear and tear injuries starting to present. And so looking after your body so you can actually do what you love is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first came back to Masters Swimming, I hadn't swum for like 20 years or something like that, hopped in and started doing the sessions, and suddenly got that kind of shoulder injury myself and had bursitis. But since I've actually done a lot of that activation and mobilization and opened up my thoracic, I remember the first time I went on a roller, I couldn't even roll over the top of it. It was that tight. But
Yeah, and that's so common. I mean, there's one particular exercise I like to give people on the roller, and it's actually a really lovely exercise to do, but most people have just such lack of movement through that area that they actually find it painful. You've got to remember too, if you're quite rigid through the thoracic spine, that extension and rotation that should be happening there, it's not happening. So there's more load going up to the neck and down to the lower back. So that can create problems in your neck and shoulders and in your lower back as well. So and as I said, I know time's a factor. People already swimming and it takes time to get there and do their session, but you really only need 10, 15 minutes a day to dedicate to that. If you can, it is worth it. And I see you do it all the time. There's a couple of Marlins that they do their spiky ball up against the wall before or after the session. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I'd love to see more master swimmers doing that on pool deck. Absolutely.
I think it would be good, for them. I think a lot of people don't know maybe what they should be doing as well, and they get scared of having to, or just don't have the time to do too many things. So by just saying 5 to 10 minutes is all you need, it would probably prevent a lot of issues long term.
And so can myotherapy in itself be a preventative measure? Or is it you're always seeing someone after this injury occurs, or injuries in general?
No, so I do have quite a few swimmers that come in, it might be every 4 or 6 weeks, just to keep on top of tightness or tension that they might be getting, and they do like to do that because they like it. They feel it helps them prevent future injury. So you do unfortunately see most people come in when they're injured and they've sort of left it a bit too long. But then you've got another group of people that they use it for preventative sort of more preventative than acute injury, which we'd like to see a bit more of.
Yeah, exactly. I always like to ask everyone that comes on the podcast a fast 5 questions, just not too onerous, but just the first thing that pops into your mind. Favorite pool you've ever swum at?
Oh, that would be when we were living in Sydney, in the North Sydney pool. Yep. So doing back straight, looking at the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. That was that for me is probably.
Can you hear me? You've frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it just went out.
Yeah, it went out. I'll take that little bit out. Second question, do you prefer kick or pull?
Kick. My background is taekwondo and track and field, so I'm all legs. Pull boys.
For everyone,
not enjoyable for me.
For everyone listening, she is a great kicker. That's true. Morning or afternoon training, which do you prefer?
Morning. Yeah, I think as I've gotten older, if I don't train in the morning, and that's not just swimming, I do a bit of cycling as well. I just don't do it. Time gets away, and absolutely morning. But not like 5 a.m. morning. I'm talking, maybe 7:30 onwards.
That sounds nice. What's your favorite thing to eat before you have a training session? What kind of food would you eat? Anything particular?
Oh, anything. Not really particular about what I eat. I love eating and I love food. So whatever's in the cupboard. I like for this morning, just we've been given a bag load of figs from a good friend, and so I just had them with muesli and they were delicious. So I'm not so fussy about that now. When I was younger, more so, but just probably not a big fried breakfast. That would be
that would be not very nice on the stomach either.
I don't think
And favorite all-time training set?
I actually love just being in the open water. So if that's a training set, I don't know. probably something that Pete's put up for us, Pete's plotters sessions, one that involves lots of socialization and talking. I'm not really fussy, but as I didn't swim when I was younger, I find the sessions with a lot of form strokes are not enjoyable for me. Yeah, so lots of freestyle and kicking.
Yeah, freestyle and kicking. Do you swim much form these days, or just stick to freestyle?
I'll do it. I
Yeah,
don't mind butterfly. I've
yeah.
always probably, I just power through it. There's not much technique, and I don't mind doing backstroke in our 100 recoveries. So I think it's important to do all strokes, and by doing all strokes, you do reduce your risk of injury as well. So I think it is important, as much as I despise breaststroke, but
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's what I like about Masters Swimming, that you just have to do that, and they put it all in, and I think that's really good to look. And I've then from there got a real enjoyment from butterfly, sort of.
Sort of. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, Kerri. It's been really good, and I think everyone listening is going to have a much better idea of what a myotherapist does and how that can help their swimming moving forward.
Thanks, Danielle. It's good to be here. See
Yeah.
you.
See you later. Bye.